You feel more comfortable in the presence of a dog than you do at a family gathering. And that's not because you're antisocial or broken or incapable of connection. It's because somewhere along the way you learned that people come with conditions, expectations, judgment, and hidden agendas, while animals just exist beside you without asking you to perform, explain yourself, or pretend to be something you're not. When you're with an animal, you don't have to translate your feelings into acceptable words. You don't have to manage their emotions while suppressing your own. You don't have to wonder if they're secretly annoyed by your presence or talking about you the moment you leave the room. And that absence of social performance feels like the first real breath you've taken all week. You've probably heard people joke about it, laugh it off, say things like, "I'm such a dog person," or "cats just get me," as if it's a quirky personality trait. But for you, it's not a preference, it's a survival mechanism. A retreat into the only kind of relationship that doesn't leave you feeling drained, misunderstood, or like you're constantly failing some invisible social test that everyone else passed without studying. You cancel plans and feel relieved instead of guilty. You'd rather sit with your pet than go to the party. You talk to animals in ways you'd never talk to people. You feel judged in every human interaction. You replay conversations for days wondering what you did wrong. You can't relax around people even when they say they like you. You feel like you're performing all the time. You get exhausted after socializing even when it went well. You trust your dog's loyalty more than your friend's promises. You'd save your cat before saving a stranger. You feel ashamed admitting that out loud. You know people think you're weird for it. You've been told you need to get out more by people who drain you. You prefer the silence. You prefer the simplicity. You prefer not having to explain why you are the way you are. Animals don't ask you why you're quiet. Animals don't make you feel guilty for needing space. Animals don't tell you you're too sensitive, too distant, too much, or not enough. You didn't choose to find safety in animals instead of people. You were taught by experience that human connection comes with a cost, that animals never charge a toll paid in vulnerability that gets weaponized, in authenticity that gets mocked, in needs that get dismissed as weakness or neediness or something shameful that should be hidden. Every time you reached out and got hurt, every time you showed up and felt invisible. Every time you were honest and it was used against you later, your nervous system was learning a brutal lesson about where safety lives and where danger hides, and unfortunately humans kept ending up in the danger column, while animals remained in the small circle of beings you could trust not to betray you. People are complicated. They carry their own wounds that bleed onto you. They project their insecurities. They need you to be a certain way to make them feel comfortable. They punish you with silence or criticism or abandonment when you fail to meet expectations you didn't even know existed. And after enough of those experiences, your brain stops seeing human connection as a source of nourishment and starts seeing it as a minefield you have to navigate just to avoid getting hurt. Animals, on the other hand, operate on a frequency that doesn't require you to decode subtext, manage egos, or perform emotional labor just to exist in the same space without conflict. They respond to energy, to presence, to genuine emotion without the filter of social acceptability, and in their simplicity you found the complexity of real connection that people kept promising but never actually delivered. You're not broken for preferring this. You're adapted. You survived an environment where human relationships were unreliable, conditional, or actively harmful, and you found sanctuary in beings who never asked you to be anything other than exactly what you are in any given moment, without judgment, expectation, or the exhausting dance of social performance that leaves you feeling more alone in a crowded room than you ever feel sitting quietly with a creature who doesn't speak your language but somehow understands you better than people who claim they do. You don't hate people, you hate what people do to you. The way they make you feel small, wrong, too much, not enough, weird for the things that make you different. And you're tired of pretending that's your problem to fix, when the reality is that most people are so uncomfortable with their own authenticity that they can't handle yours either. So they trained you through 1,000 tiny rejections to hide the parts of you that didn't fit their comfort zone until you became a stranger to yourself just to be tolerable to others. Animals never asked you to shrink, never made you feel like your natural state was something that needed correction, never punished you for being quiet when you needed silence or distant when you needed space, and the unconditional acceptance you found there revealed just how conditional all your human relationships actually were. How much performance was required, how little room there was for you to just be without apology or explanation. The people who tell you it's unhealthy to prefer animals don't understand that for you. Animals represent the only relationship model you've experienced where love doesn't come with a price tag, where presence is enough, where you don't have to earn the right to exist without criticism, and they're asking you to go back into the arena that wounded you and pretend the wounds aren't real, aren't valid, aren't a completely rational response to being hurt over and over by the very people who were supposed to make you feel safe. Your preference isn't a rejection of humanity. It's a rejection of what humanity has asked you to become in order to be accepted. And somewhere deep down you know that the version of yourself that animals love, the unfiltered, unperforming, just existing version, is the version people should have loved too but didn't. And that knowledge sits in your chest like a stone you carry everywhere. The proof that you were never the problem. You just kept trying to connect in a world that punishes authenticity and rewards pretending. You can start honoring this truth instead of apologizing for it by understanding that choosing animals over people isn't about giving up on human connection. It's about refusing to accept connection that requires you to abandon yourself. And there's nothing wrong with preferring relationships that don't demand you perform a version of yourself that doesn't exist just to make others comfortable with your existence. Stop letting people shame you for finding peace in simplicity, for choosing loyalty over drama, for preferring the company of beings who don't require you to constantly prove your worth through social gymnastics that exhaust you down to your bones. You're allowed to have boundaries around your energy, to protect your peace, to say no to gatherings that drain you, and yes to solitude that fills you back up, and you don't owe anyone an explanation for why you'd rather stay home with your pet than force yourself into social situations that leave you feeling more alone than you did before you went. Find the few humans who feel like your animals feel, the ones who let you exist without commentary, who don't need you to be more talkative, more social, more anything, who can sit in silence with you and call it connection, who understand that your way of loving is just as valid even if it looks different from what everyone else is doing. Your capacity for love isn't broken just because it flows more easily toward creatures who never learned to weaponize it. And you can start building human relationships on the same terms you built your relationship with animals. Presence without performance, acceptance without conditions, loyalty without manipulation. And if that means you have 2 real friends instead of 50 fake ones, you're not losing, you're winning at a game. Most people don't even know they're playing wrong. The world will keep telling you to be more social, more outgoing, more comfortable with people who make you uncomfortable. But you can start telling yourself a different story, one where your preference for animal companionship isn't a flaw to fix, but a compass pointing toward the kind of connection you deserve. The kind that doesn't leave you feeling emptied out, the kind that fills you up instead of draining you dry. And once you stop seeing it as something shameful and start seeing it as wisdom earned through painful experience, you can stop apologizing for protecting yourself and start celebrating the fact that you figured out where real connection lives, even if it's not where everyone else is looking for it. You like animals more than people because animals never taught you that love is something you have to earn through endless performance, never made you feel like your authentic self was something that needed to be hidden, corrected, or apologized for just to be allowed to exist in their presence without judgment. The shame you carry around this preference isn't yours. It belongs to every person who made you feel wrong for being exactly who you are, who punished your sensitivity, mocked your quietness, criticized your need for space, and then wondered why you stopped trying to connect with people who clearly didn't want the real version of you anyway. You're not antisocial, you're anti-bullshit, and there's a difference that most people will never understand, because they're too busy performing their own version of acceptability to recognize that what you found with animals is what everyone is actually looking for. Unconditional acceptance, presence without pretense, love without leverage, connection without the exhausting requirement to be someone you're not. Stop defending your preference to people who will never understand it. Stop shrinking yourself to fit into social expectations that were designed for people who find energy in crowds when you find it in silence. Stop pretending you're broken for being built differently when the truth is you just stopped accepting relationships that required you to break yourself to fit. The right people, the rare ones, the ones worth keeping, will feel like your animals, feel like you can finally exhale, like you don't have to translate yourself into a language they'll accept. Like being quiet together is just as valuable as filling the space with words. And until you find those people, there's no shame in preferring the company of beings who loved you first, without asking you to audition for the role. Your dog doesn't care if you're successful. Your cat doesn't judge you for staying in. Your pets don't need you to be impressive or entertaining or anything other than present. And in a world that constantly demands more from you, that simplicity isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's self-preservation. It's the recognition that you'd rather have authentic connection with beings who can't speak than superficial connection with people who won't stop talking long enough to actually see you. You were never the problem, you just kept trying to be loved by people who didn't know how. And the animals taught you what you deserved all along. To be accepted exactly as you are, without conditions, without performance, without having to earn the right to take up space in someone's life. Stay.